Hi, Matt Duke from the South Texas Business Lawyers here today with another episode of the South Texas Power Lunch. Thank you so much for watching. Roman Huerta is with us here today from Drank, which is a hidden gem that's about to be well known throughout our community in the soda shop industry. There's three things you're going to learn in this. Number one, Roman talks about how he found a unique concept that could be franchised. It's something I have a lot of conversations with small business owners about. Number two, what were the challenges of scaling that he had to overcome and is actually still working on today, because life and business is a journey of continuously learning and improving. And then three, what's with all these soda shops and coffee shops and a tea shop showing up all over our community? Well, we're going to talk about the soda industry and then also the future of the soda industry and franchising that I don't think you're going to want to miss. And as always, we've got pro tips and information and advice that are sprinkled throughout as we hear from founders that are doing it on a day-to-day basis, which we can all learn from, including the top 3 tips for preparing your business to be franchised, which you don't want to be amiss. Thanks again so much for joining us. Let's get right into the conversation.
So Roman, thanks so much for coming to talk with us today about Drank and all the exciting things you're doing. We wanted to start off with really the journey for you and Drank and its formation. And, you know, you've got a unique concept for franchising. Tell us a little bit about how you came up with the concept of Drank. Give us that founder's journey story for us.
Yeah. So, I mean, ever since I was a kid, I've had like this big entrepreneurial spirit, and I've always wanted to get into it, and always waiting for the right opportunity to come along. And I've dabbled in a lot of different things, from tech to restaurant startups. And like, I'll say I didn't come up with this concept just like someone, like, I don't know who invented the hamburger, you know, I didn't invent the concept necessarily, but what I wanted to do was, and what I've always loved, is taking things from one place and bringing them to another. And so, you know, in Chile, they got empanadas, like these baked ones that are super delicious, and like bringing them to the States is like super cool to me, because you can have things from different places, and that's what I love about America. So it's a melting pot of everything.
So where did you get the concept of Drank and bring it from?
Yeah, and so I'm from San Antonio, Texas.
Okay.
I'm native here, have deep roots here, but I moved to Utah for my wife for school, and there I saw the rise of soda shops. I mean, there was one, and then there was another, and then there's all these other ones. And
it's like taco stands in South Texas.
Exactly. And so after seeing all those start popping up, I was like, oh, this is cool. You know, I didn't think much of it. And then, you know, for a lot of people, like, the pandemic changed their lives. And like, it changed my life in sort of a positive fashion, to like push me to do the things that I wanted to do, because I hated working in tech after the pandemic, working remote, never seeing people. And so I'd come down here like in the pandemic just for Thanksgiving, just to be with family together. And it was so hot. Like in Utah, it's like freezing. And I come down here, it's like 85, November. And I'm like,
wait a minute, it's 85 and it's March right now, literally March 1st.
Exactly. And so like, and that's the thing. Like I know that, like, in Texas, we got long summers.
Yeah.
Like, and in Utah, we have long winters.
Right.
And if it can be successful there, and I know Texans, and I know we love soda. We love to drink things, especially because it's so hot
right
most of the time. And so I said, this would be a perfect thing. Like when I was down for that Thanksgiving, I'm like, so hot. Why don't we have one here? There's nothing like this here. Like, why don't we bring one here? And so, like, literally 3 months later, we sold our house and we moved over. We moved down to Texas and from Utah, and just started like building everything. Well, I tested some things before we moved, but like for the most part, most of this magic happened here, and I knew we needed to be here to make it happen. And so like I went and found the spot, went and found everything. And what I really wanted to bring was like Texas's soda shop. I knew other people would come. They're going to be like these foreign entities. You know, we get a lot of like big franchises that come to Texas because there's a lot of people here.
Yeah.
We like to eat food.
Right.
And which is fine. But I wanted Texas to have like their very own. Like, we're the Texas soda shop, you know, like we're the one that originated here. We're one that's branded all Texas. And so like having a Texas twist on the soda shop concept is what I wanted to do.
So you literally were here for Thanksgiving and then said, you know what, I think it'd be great to bring a soda shop down here. You went back, and 3 months later you sold your house and moved back and started forming Drank.
Exactly.
Wow. Wow, that's just diving right into it, isn't it?
Yeah. It was a kind of it took probably another year to get it like all ready to go.
Yep.
After we moved back, but like I was always like that was always the goal.
So describe to our viewers here that maybe haven't been to the store, and we'll have stuff in the description for how they can find out about Drank. And they're definitely going to find out about it soon. I know.
Yeah.
What is the concept of Drank? Can you give us that in a short little synopsis?
Yeah, for sure. So you just take your favorite sodas that you already love, like Dr. Pepper, Coke, Sprite, whatever. We have so many different sodas. You take those normal, lovely soda bases, and then we mix different flavors into them. And so we'll take like what I got.
Well, here we got here. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm a DDP guy, so tell them what is this drink?
So we have a lot of diet options. That one's a diet version, but that's the Saytown. It has cheesecake flavoring, strawberry puree, and cream.
That's really
And
good.
So we mix that.
And I'm not just saying that because you're on my podcast. That's really good. Keep going. Tell them what I have. I'll just drink this.
Yeah, so that one is one of our most popular ones. Like
That is
another
delicious.
popular one, for example, is the Cowboy, and that's root beer, caramel, marshmallow, and cream.
I saw that one when I was at the store. That one, how do you get people to be adventurous like that? Like when I came in, I got your, was it lemonade and watermelon and cherry? Oh, it was delicious.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness, it was delicious.
See, I got
But that
that.
was safe for me, right? Like when I saw the root beer, which I love root beer, and then I'm like marshmallows, I'm like, how do you get people to be adventurous? Because that's kind of what you're on, is you're on this adventure. Like that's fantastic.
Right. And that's the thing, like, people get really curious, and the more people that come, they get more like curious on what else is there. So I have a few, like there's this one called the H-Town, which is, it's really cherry and vanilla. And it's like kind of a gateway one. It's like people go to that one a lot because they're like, oh, that's safe. But then once they try it, they're like, oh my gosh, this is way better than
And this was the Saytown, right?
Yeah.
Okay. I like the Saytown.
So, yeah. And that's the thing. Like people, once they try it, their minds are just open, and there's like a revelation. And I'm like, I didn't understand completely, but now I do.
Well, because we're used to Sonic, right? Which, I mean, I have young kids and they've been on the show before, so I'm at Sonic every couple of weeks. And Sonic is your standard flavors, right? Mixing candy. And that's kind of how we think of a soda with a flavor shot or a flavor with candy, and that's it. But you literally have recipes of things that I would have never thought to mix, marshmallow with root beer. So talk a little bit about what it took to form that full concept, because for a franchise, you need to have your concept that is unique. You've got to have the brand, which we'll come back to the brand. And then you got to have your business system. That's really the three key elements of there. And then there's a royalty that comes, and that's, the business side of it. But how did you set up your concept? Like, talk about that process to form Drank the concept.
Yeah. So, I mean, first, like, I don't know why, but very, very early on, like people ask me, what's the story behind the name? I'm like, I just thought it was fun to say.
Drank.
And it's fun to say. And there's a little bit more, there's like a southern draw to it. Down here we say drank, and then there's a lot of songs that have the word drank in it. And people are just like, it's just funny to say. It's memorable. It's one syllable, drank.
That's true.
And so it's easy. It's awesome. And so like, I got the name, and I had that way early on. And then so it's recipe building. You're right. And like having to build like formulas around that, like how much goes into each size.
Yeah.
Like, and for that, I mean, it may not show right now in this business that I have currently, but I love cooking, and I have a good taste, and I have a good.
Well, I think it does show, because whatever again is in this one is delicious, and I don't know who would have ever thought to mix what you mix. So
yeah,
it does show.
And so I think I have a good sense for that, and like making flavor combinations. Yeah, we had some fails that aren't on the menu, obviously. We try, just to say that I've tried a lot of soda.
Right.
It was a lot, but like I just knew that we wanted to like highlight the popular brands and like have some like really unique but also like delicious familiar flavors as well. And what I didn't do was look at anybody else's menu, because there's other soda shops, and I said the only reason I'm ever going to look at a menu is to make sure I don't have that one,
right?
Or that they don't have it. And so I just made the menu and I made it all. And I'm like, this one seems a little common. And I was like, maybe I'll go check. And I checked and I'm like, this one's not there. Like, why isn't this one there? Like on their primary menus anymore.
Right.
And so like, just like fine tuning those. I mean, when I moved here, I didn't just move here and just be like, all right, these taste good to me. Like I had many parties and I had many people over and testing it all along the way. I did like a catering job. I like sold it on the street corner in a neighborhood, like in a neighborhood garage sale, just to like see how people would bite.
Did you do a lemonade stand that was drank? The first store, I hope you have a picture of that. Of the first drink store right out there on the side.
Exactly.
That would have that. That would have been, man, you would have made a whole lot of money in my neighborhood. I mean, I buy lemonade from kids all the time. It's nothing like this.
Exactly.
Talk about the culture too, because coming into the store, and visiting there is a culture that you can feel that you're creating there at Drank. Talk about that as part of your concept as well.
Yeah. So, for me, the culture is Texas, and I say that truly because Texas like means friends, right? And are friendly, right? And so to me, if it's not a friendly, warm, fun environment, then it's not really embodying what we're trying to represent, which is Texas, like in all of our drinks, from all the names to the branding to the colors. I mean, it's all that. And like, there's a noticeable difference. I've had a lot of people come visit us since we moved here, and like they just can tell the difference between that Texas friendly hospitality, and that's what I wanted to bring into the store as well, is that friendly Texas hospitality. I mean, our employees are awesome. They try to greet everybody that comes in. If they had to wait a little longer, then it's like, hey, sorry, but we're gonna help you out. We're gonna give you what you want. We're gonna be there with you as you're taking a brave new step into something you've never tried.
That's right. Well, and if I was there, there was two things that struck out to me. Was one, I think you were advertising a karaoke night or a karaoke, which I was like, oh, well, that's interesting from a community standpoint. And then you had some small businesses actually that were in your store that you were supporting as well. So is that part of your culture?
It is absolutely. So we are releasing our new calendar for this month today, and we have just trying to find all these small businesses and support them. I mean, we don't do food. We have some snacks. We don't do food. And what I want is to say, well, why don't we promote them? Why don't we help them out? Like, it's a culture of like helping one another. I mean, Texas, like, we lend you a hand, if you need it. There's like, it's like always funny. They're like, oh yeah, in Texas, you get a flat tire and you got like 5, people in their truck pull up to you and try to help you out, And so that's how I feel too. It's like, I want to help out these businesses. I want to get the word out for them. Like we have the space, why not use it? Which is great. I mean, but that's that's a unique culture, I think, for Drank. And again, from your brand and from your concept, I think that fits into that Texas friendliness, environment that you've had. Exactly.
Let's give our viewers something that we try to do, which is kind of some expert advice here, because you are an expert. Looking back and creating this concept, because this is a very well-developed concept. I mean, I see a lot of these, and I've shared this with you too. When you're franchising, it's a very challenging it's a challenging concept, because you have to have a good, solid concept that's scalable, and that is competitive, that somebody's going to say, I'll invest in that by, buying a franchise. And you definitely have that. What if you could go back and look at yourself, or give yourself a note right at the beginning when you were going to jump 3 months and create this concept? What was one thing that you look back that you're like, man, if I ever did this again, I would change it, or I would do something this way? What's that expert advice from a lesson learned?
What would I change if I could go back and do it again?
Yep, to speed up the concept, or to help you out with it.
I don't know if I've actually been asked that question before. Usually they ask what are the things that you did that made successful? I wish I could have started it sooner, I guess. Like, I don't know. I wish I could have taken a leap a little sooner.
Really? 3 months is, we've had a lot of people in here that the concepts that, some people think, oh man, they're an overnight sensation. And then, or success. And then they come in here and you talk and like, well, yeah, I've been working on this for like 7 years. You're like, 7 years, but you had 3 months.
Yeah.
I wish I wouldn't have gone back to Utah. I would have just stayed here during Thanksgiving. I mean, that's kind of what you're getting at.
Yeah.
Maybe so, right?
Yeah. And then, so like the things that I wish I'd known to be able to start sooner,
right?
It would have been like where to get the like funds.
Yep.
I mean, that was one thing that took a long time, like how to find a realtor or realtor group that was helpful.
Sure.
Because I worked with one for a while that just dragged me around, and that wasted a ton of time.
That's right.
And then like distributors, like I had to switch distributors at some point too, because one just was not working for various reasons. And so there's all these little pieces that like I wish I had known who to talk to about like a loan like first versus like taking all this time, wasting all this time. And so I wish I could have gone to a restaurant and that was trying to do something that I did and ask them like, how did you get started? What did you do? And I'm always like, my door's always open. I literally just talked to some entrepreneurs like 2 days ago who have amazing concepts. We're one of the vendors we had, and so good. They do like these French pastries, crumbs, and they just chatted me how I got to where I am. And I wish I could have found that person to do that for me.
Well, then there you go. There's your expert, right?
Yeah.
I mean, mentors are huge. And then the right team, which we talk a lot about that here, is, a mentor that will give you some of that wisdom. And wisdom comes from experience.
Yeah.
I mean, every now and then you get somebody that's wise and didn't have the experience. And you're like, well, I wish I was that person. It's not me. That's why I do this podcast. I learn from everybody else. Yeah. But wisdom with a mentor and then the right team can be a challenge. It can really slow you down. I mean, people don't realize that entrepreneurship, whether it's a franchise or not, is somewhat a lesson in mistakes.
Yeah.
Or a lesson through mistakes, right? And that wisdom you get when you learn from that helps you out, but passing that down is huge. It's great that you do that.
Yeah, and I'll just say real quick that it's not that I didn't have mentors, so whoever was watching this, like I had great, like I actually met a guy. So the problem with the mentors was like having them here in
Sure.
Because I moved from states, different states, and I had some great mentors in Utah. Where I actually met a guy who started his own soda shop in Utah. And so I got to come in, chat with him. I
that's great.
Soda shop a couple times, and he gave me the inside scoop on how he started it.
Oh wow!
And so like I kind of had that basis, but then like coming over here, it was a little lonely, right? There's no one else doing this, and also I have to educate everybody, and so that I didn't know any restaurant owners here, and like trying to find them, like they're all so busy. So it's hard to get their time.
We've got several restaurants that are part of our group, and yes, they're busy people. They work a lot.
I hear there's like some communities here in San Antonio that like I wish I knew were like this the
geekdom. You've got a whole lot of there's a lot more startup resources for companies. People think that those are usually for tech, but they're not. I mean, there's a lot of community resources out there, which we try to make sure we advertise and make sure people know those opportunities because they're huge.
Yes, they are.
So let's kind of move into this next phase, which is where you've got this great concept. It's delicious, by the way. I'm going to keep saying that because it is. Now you're in the mode of scaling.
Yes.
Talk about you've got one store, it's extremely successful, but now as you look to scale to multiple stores and into this franchise, what are some challenges that you've had to face or you're facing now with this whole, concept of scaling?
Yeah, it's and I don't know if this is, I feel like this is a pretty common one, but like just like people. Like,
sure.
Like, I don't know how many entrepreneurs went in with partners or anything, like, but it's just me. Like, I'm the only one who owns this business like 100% right now. And so like I do all the groundwork and the legwork. And so I'm also like trying to keep costs low as we continue to expand. And so like there's a certain amount of employees we can have, and then they call out, and then that makes it hard. And their vacations, I need to be in the shop, and I try not to be there. Well, I'm there, but I try not to have to make the drinks all the time because I need to work on the scaling part of it.
Sure.
And so having like a consistent staff is hard.
The essence of scaling really is the process.
Yeah.
Right. Because, what entrepreneurs you usually figure out when they hit this stage of scaling or at least trying to get out is of the day-to-day is if it's not a process, it's not imitable by someone else. It's a person dependent versus process dependent. Yeah. And a lot of companies that I talk with, some clients have shared with their past is that real struggle from moving from people dependent, meaning the founder, doing everything, to process dependent and plugging the right people in. Now, that doesn't save you from the other issues, which are HR issues, right? And then even sometimes customer issues, right? With, complaints and those sort of things. But process is the core of that scaling.
Absolutely.
How has that been something that you've addressed there at Drank as you're growing now?
Yeah. So when I'm not, talking to customers and stuff, I'm usually working on the process. And I had it, and I might answer this question with the same answer later, but it's having the end in mind. So I knew before I even started that whatever I built needed to be scalable. And I come from tech. And what do they always say in tech? Scalability.
That's right.
You got to be able to have 1 million users on there.
That's right.
So I have to be able to someday have a million stores. I have a million customers coming in, and so I made sure that before I even launched, before I even hired the first employee, that I had like an operations manual. That has evolved over time, but I have it, and they can reference it. I can reference it. I'm like, this is our policy. Like, this is how we do this. This is how we do that. Like, everything had a place. Everything has a way of being done, so that I can just be like, all right, employee, thank you for coming in. Here's the training. Like, I'm going to walk you through this. It's not very hard. I'm going to walk you through it. And if you have questions, ask them, ask me. But like, it's easy. And I have a system, I have a checklist for how to train these people, like what I need to do to get them hired. So I had the end in mind at the very beginning. So I knew I had to have a process in. I knew I had to have a way to like hire people. I knew I needed to work with companies that would grow with me.
That's right.
Otherwise, then I'm gonna have to like find a new payroll processing company, like, a year down the road, and then that's a huge headache. And so I don't want any of that stuff. And so everything now should be able to grow with us as we continue to scale.
And see, that's great advice. And I'm sure you've had some, had to tweak or change, right, to find that. But beginning with the end in mind is huge, especially with franchises, because again, as I go back to those elements of a franchise, of the concept, the business processes are the biggest make or break that I have as an experience as a franchise owner, and also in representing franchisees and franchisors. Many of the unsuccessful and problematic franchisees that have come to us have been because they didn't get a process. They were sold a concept, right? Which we've talked about a concept. They were sold a brand. There was a royalty taken, but there wasn't the business processes to be able to plug and play and to drive theirs. And so beginning with the end in mind, having those processes, those are absolutely critical. Do you have any stories maybe to share where, a process where you had to maybe had to redesign it or tweak it or anything like that? I'm sure you do.
Sure, yeah. I mean, when we first opened, like I was hoping to have go cashless, because I don't like cash. Cash is a pain in the butt. We quickly learned we're losing people sometimes, and we're also frustrating some people that we don't have cash.
Really?
We don't accept it. And so we do take cash now, but I had to expand that. So I had to be all right, here's how we handle cash. Here's what you do when there's too much. Here's when too little. Here's how you get more change. Here's how what happens if you're robbed. It's down all those granular details. I just put them down. Even if no one's gonna read this manual, it's there, and someone can find it if need be.
Right.
And we do have a way of doing things.
Well, that's interesting. The Gen Z, they don't know about the till, and then they don't know about, if you work at HEB and stuff, those kids all know that. And sorry, there are kids that are working the registers, most of them, right? But most kids, and then that generation, they don't there's no cash. My daughter who's 6, she'll probably never really understand cash. For that. But it is one of those where you have to speak to whatever your customers are and make sure the customer experience is right. So that's interesting. What about the soda shop industry? So let me kind of shift over to that. Talk about that, because we see Sonic here in San Antonio shrinking its presence. We see things like H2T or HTO, right? We see Drank starting to expand. What do you see in Texas going on with the soda shop market, and what do you see in that?
Yeah. So these big soda shop companies, because there are big ones. There's chains. There's like ones that are owned by other companies. Like they're big, and even though people don't know it, but they have their eyes dead set on Texas, and they're just like, hey, I want a piece of that pie,
Sure.
And because we're like my research I did before I even came was like we're like the fourth largest soda drinking state in the union,
Probably one of the fourths in the world, I would bet.
Yeah, it's a lot, and they don't have their eyes set, and I knew that because I could see that they were like starting to like a franchise opportunity popped up here or there, and I'm like interesting, and I wanted to bring it here. So for me, being one person, like I could move so much faster than them. And so I got here. I'm the first drive-through soda shop, like this specific kind of concept in all of San Antonio. And so like I beat them, they're coming and they'll be here.
Right.
And there's a lot of space in Texas for everybody, I guess. But like, I'd love to be like the premier one of Texas, like Texas is very own, And being first, it's a little hard because of the education part.
Sure.
But like there's something to be said about like, oh, those guys are the first ones. Like they can never now say they were the first ones in San Antonio. Like,
that's right.
We will always be like number one. And as we continue to grow, like we have a bigger presence and our branding is just totally different than theirs. Theirs is like glamour shots of like things. And I do talk about our drinks, but more importantly, it's like that there's a soul in that company.
Your marketing, I'll have to say, I saw it yesterday and I didn't get a chance, but it was you with some drink laying in a bed. But again, from a soda, right? You're right. There's this, and I was going to talk to you about like the health movement, right? Because when it comes to consumer products, there's a lot of consumer product push around, drinks that have that health benefits, to that. We see things like Prime drink, which is a Gatorade competitor that is just exploding. I've got more Prime bottles in my car right now than I've ever had, Gatorade bottles in there. So there's this big push on the health side of, drinks and those sort of things. How do you deal with something like that at Drink?
Yeah, it's actually really interesting because we have like 7 like sugar-free base options. We have a lot of diet stuff. So like I do understand that there's like sugar, like may not be the best for you. Like there's no secret there.
Right.
But it's delicious. I mean, it puts smile on people's faces, and even people who are diabetic like my father and many other people in my life have diabetes. And so it was important to me that we had diet options. And
sure.
I knew that. I mean, I'm Hispanic. I'm at risk for diabetes as well. And having all those diet options like makes people really happy. Or there's a guy who started coming through now. He's like, he always gets like these awesome drinks, and then he's like, hey, I'm doing keto now. So he just gets sugar-free stuff.
Right.
And I have that option for those people.
Which is great. And, it's funny, not funny, but you said about the sugar thing. Sugar actually isn't bad. And but we have in our, I'm going to get my soapbox for a little bit. We have this really, either it's bad or good, right? Mm-hmm. Everything is bad if you do it to the extremes, right? If you don't do it to the extremes, there's a place for just about everything, including sugar, right? Which is why keto is almost a no sugar, but some of these people have realized you can't go all the way to keto. You have to do more of an Atkins, a low sugar diet, because you still need those type of carbs. But it's interesting because for your concept, I'm going to go back to this, whatever you were doing on that bed with the drink, right? Which is great. You're actually taking away back to the soul of just drinks and that happiness, as opposed to this, I don't know if it's guilting or not, of we must drink healthy, right? Yeah. And you must drink this way, which by the way is like a $9 drink, for your healthy option, for it, when it doesn't really, it doesn't have a whole lot of benefits necessarily to that. And versus just, some of these other drinks that you have, which are well done and can bring joy, and there's something more than just, hey, I'm going to drink, a Coke can. I'm going to drink something that actually like this, that's really unique and makes me happy.
Yeah.
So it's great that you do all that. And what do you think with regard to the future of Drank in San Antonio? What do you see over the next 3 years?
Well, I think we're going to have at least 3 4 or 5 stores in San Antonio in the next 3 years.
Great.
And then obviously out in our sister city, Austin, Houston, Dallas, like we got to start hitting those markets as well. I mean, they're all hungry for it. The thing is, like I said, I brought this to Texas because people see it on social media already.
Right.
Ooh, I want that. Like,
Yeah.
I've seen that before. I want to try that. And
Right.
they're really excited. Like, why don't we have one? Like, like, how dare you guys keep it for yourselves?
Right.
And so, like, it's easy to get people to come in. And once they try it the first time, like, they're like sold. Like, I get it. It's awesome. I'm coming back. And so we want to have more stores. I want to have some drive-through only options. So you see a lot of these small like coffee kiosks around, and they're just drive-through only. Like we'll have some of those as well. Store number 1 over here. Like
Yep.
we'll always have a space inside, and I love being part of the community. And so I love that one has like space to do that. And we might do that in other ones too, but like we'll see like what we'll be able to find as well. Because there's a certain speed that comes with leasing a store versus building one from the ground up.
Right.
So.
Well, Roman, I can't thank you enough for coming here. But before we leave, and I promise this to the audience, this is an amazing concept. And you've already shared a little bit of the lessons that you learned. Can you give 3 tips to our audience for somebody that's thinking about, you know what, I have this concept that'd be a great franchise. What are 3 things they need to consider, or you would advise them with your wisdom now going through all this? What would that be?
Yeah, so some of these might be just kind of summing up what we talked about, but you got to have the end in mind. Like
Yeah.
If you're going to do a franchise, then you need to think about process from the beginning.
Yep.
Write down what you're doing, or else you're going to forget yourself, and they're not going to be able to tell other people what you did. So have the end in mind, like it's like number 1 for sure. And then the other one that I think we didn't talk about is like have something that people want on a regular basis. Like I've talked to other restaurants and like, oh, I want to grow, but like, you know, we only get enough sales to doing this one special specific thing. Well, I mean, it just has to be something that people are going to want a lot of. And what do people always drink soda.
Right.
People always have that. So like whatever it is, and I'm not saying trying to deter people from doing something that like my mind isn't able to comprehend why it's not as popular, but like try to find something in other markets that's been successful, bring it to where you are, because those kind of things are like, that's proven.
Yep.
The soda shop concept is proven 100%.
Has been for generations.
Yeah. And it's even more now with this style.
Mm-hmm.
And so like I'm taking that and trying to make it into our franchise in a new market. And so like make sure what you're doing is franchisable, I guess. Like
Yep.
that the concept itself is something that more than just 100 people are going to want.
Right.
It needs to be 1 million people are going to want it.
That's right.
Or more, right? And then, yeah. Oh, there was one more I had, but I'm spacing it right now. It's find a mentor. That's the third one. Is have a mentor. If you're going to do a chicken business, find someone that does chicken. You know,
I know somebody that does chicken. So if you're looking for a chicken business, and watch out for the snakes. That's the one thing I didn't realize from the chicken and egg farms. You get a whole lot of snakes. But no, that's great.
make some snake bites. Rattlesnake bites. Yeah.
Well, I can't thank you enough for coming on here and talking with us. And we wish you the best success for this year and into come. And for those of you that are watching, check out Drank because it is delicious. I have actually finished this entire thing as we're sitting here. Thanks so much for coming on with us.
Yeah, of course. Thank you so much.
Wow, I hope you enjoyed that just as much as I do. We are so proud to educate and support our community here in South Texas. And this is just another example of a great founder that is doing great things that we love to highlight here on the South Texas Power Lunch. Now make sure you subscribe. As the South Texas business lawyers, we look forward to supporting and educating every single small business owner. And by subscribing, you won't miss out on all of the free education and information that we send out almost every single day. So subscribe now and don't miss out.